Am I the jerk for sending someone's fiancé the lewd and insulting messages that he sent me? I'm a 37-year-old female and I was somewhat wild in college. I slept with multiple guys and I partied, but I didn't ever do anything illegal, dangerous, or immoral. I'm now happily married with 2 kids. A few months ago, some guy I hadn't talked to since I was 18 years old and a freshman in college sent me messages on social media in the middle of the night that were horrible. It was basically a sloshed rant about how I was a huge floozy and how I spread it for anyone and how I loved doing dirty things with him, etc. I immediately blocked him and ignored the messages. I recently saw a post from his now fiancé, who I used to be friends with in college but haven't talked to in years, announcing their engagement and gushing about how he's the kindest, most gentle, most wonderful guy in the world. I was pissed that he was pretending to be some great guy while harassing me in his spare time. So I forwarded her all the messages he had sent me. He contacted me by getting my number from mutual friends, freaking out. He told me I was insane and jealous of his fiancé. I didn't think I did anything wrong, but our mutual friends are all on his side and said it was crazy for me to contact his fiancé, who I hadn't spoken with in over a decade, over some sloshed messages he claimed he didn't even remember sending me. A few of our mutual friends even added that he only told the truth since I slept around in college. Now I'm wondering if I overstepped by sending these messages to his fiancé. And as an added clarification, I want to justify that none of these mutual friends are people who I'm currently close friends with. They are people that we both went to college with, so I have known them for years, but they aren't people who I regularly hang out with. I assume they are still better friends with him. I actually don't know who he is friends with, but he clearly told them about it, so I'm assuming anyway. My phone number hasn't changed since 2002, so it wouldn't be hard to track my number down from a mutual friend or acquaintance. Also, there is no other information. There is no nefarious backstory, and there's nothing I'm leaving out. I have literally no idea why he sent me unsolicited messages after almost 20 years. And for those of you who are sending me messages accusing me of giving him a venereal disease or trying to shame me and saying I don't deserve to be a wife and a mother, I hope you get stuck in the bowels of hell where you do nothing except listen to Baby Shark on loop while dragging a screaming toddler up a never-ending sledding hill. So, am I the jerk for sending someone's fiancé the lewd and insulting messages he sent me? The OP clearly goes out of the way to say that there is nothing else that provoked any of this. It just came out of nowhere. And so with that being the case, that seems totally random that he would just hit her up after 20-ish years and start going off on all this. And it doesn't matter if he remembers if he sent them or not. That's a weird excuse that he has because he sent them. He could probably check on his own end that he sent them without her having to prove anything. He just has to look and know that he sent them, unless his account was compromised. But how could it be so specific to know exactly what his experiences were with her specifically in order to send those messages? It doesn't make any sense other than for him to have been the one that sent them. So it's just a weird excuse to have in general. I mean, maybe he was upset that he really wanted to be with her ultimately and then she didn't end up with him, or he wanted her to be the way he wanted her to be and then be with him. It didn't end up that way either. And after years of looking back on it, he just freaked out like this. But none of that makes it okay, obviously. Some of the highlights of the top responses say that his fiancé deserves to know exactly who she's about to marry. Interesting that he's apparently mad at you that you love doing dirty things with him when he was also engaged in doing those exact same things. Fascinating, no? And another comment, someone else said it's been 19 years and he is still hung up on this to the point that he reached out, took the time to find her profile and spent a while writing messages with more hate than what you would have for someone who ate your goldfish alive. He is not a gentle and wonderful guy. That's almost incel level. His fiancé deserved to know this, both his personality and his weird obsession from almost 20 years ago before making a decision like marriage. OP didn't bring up something that happened when they were 18, for which she would have been a jerk. She brought up something that happened months ago, so it was relevant. But let me know what you guys think and what would you do in this situation? Jerk or not a jerk, and why? Would I be the jerk jerk for not letting my wife take our daughter's door. I'm 47 years old, my wife is 44, and our daughter is 19 years old. As a bit of background, I caught our daughter doing the deed with her boyfriend a few days ago, and she begged me not to tell my wife, but I felt that my wife deserved to know. We paid for our daughter's college because I worked 70 hours a week for many years to have enough money for her to go to college. Anyways, I told my wife and she was livid. She yelled at our daughter for almost an hour and took her phone away from her and banned her boyfriend from the house. I told her she was being a bit too harsh, but she thinks these punishments are not harsh enough. She said that if our daughter does anything else she doesn't allow, then she is going to take the door off of her room. I told her that she's overreacting and she yelled at me too. I had given our daughter her phone back when my wife went to the grocery store, and my wife found out and she is angry about that too. She told my in-laws about this and now they are blowing up my phone and telling me that I'm encouraging underage pregnancy and premarital friskiness. An update from the future says I have talked to my daughter and apologized for telling her mother what happened. I told her that if she would like to look into moving out, I would help her pay for an apartment for a few months until she can pay on her own. So, would I be the jerk for not letting my wife take the door off of our daughter's room? I mean, in this case, the daughter is an adult. It's not like it's a kid that's living in this house, so it's going to be hard to enforce stuff like this, but the daughter is still living in this house, so presumably she has to follow these rules of the house. The one thing I think that probably made this a lot worse is that the OP, the husband, went behind the back of the wife and gave the phone back to the daughter, which the situation was probably already tense enough, but that probably made it a lot worse because then the wife doesn't necessarily think that her husband is on her side anymore, and maybe she feels that the daughter and the husband, which is the OP, are teaming up against her. And the part about an underage pregnancy, I mean, she's not underage, she's an adult, she's 19 years old, so I'm not sure exactly what they mean. Maybe they mean that she'll be pregnant before the age that they want her to be pregnant at or something like that, but the exact sentence doesn't really make sense as it's stated here from the perspective of the mom and the family. I'm fairly certain that the father going and helping the daughter get moved out and everything is probably going to create even deeper ties in his relationship with his wife because it doesn't address the underlying issue in the mom's eyes, but that doesn't mean it's not the right decision to make here. But let me know what you would do in this situation if you were the father, aka the OP here, and is he the jerk or not for not letting his wife take the door off of his daughter's room? Am I the jerk for telling my roommate that I'm not responsible for her boyfriend's allergies? I'm a 19-year-old female and I have a roommate, Kayla, who is also 19 years old. We have been roommates for almost a year. We've always had this shared refrigerator situation going on where we alternate every week or two on who buys the groceries, cleaning supplies, etc. But we don't cook for each other. That is very important to the story. Well, 6 months ago, Kayla got a boyfriend, Caleb, who's 21 years old, who has been spending a lot of time in our apartment. He would leave his mess everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I really mean it. He would leave his clothes on the bathroom floor and living room, but the biggest issue was that he would eat everything, even the things that were strictly mine, i.e. leftover takeout of mine, dinners that I cook for myself, etc. I've talked with my roommate about this multiple times and she said she would talk to him, but it doesn't seem like she even tries to talk to him, which in a way is sort of enabling him to continue this behavior. Here's where the incident happened. 2 nights ago, I made myself some dinner. I was following this recipe and I was making fried chicken that had some sort of sauce that contained honey in it, which is also very important to the story. Neither I nor my roommate has any sort of allergy, so I didn't say anything to her when I made it or when I put my leftovers from my food in Tupperware and in the fridge. Well, yesterday, I got back home from work and my roommate wasn't home. I didn't question it and moved on with my day. A few hours later, I heard the front door open, and a few moments later, my roommate enters my room and just starts yelling at me, saying I could have killed her boyfriend and how I am irresponsible and how dare I put my food in the fridge unlabeled when her boyfriend is allergic to honey. But here's the thing. I didn't know he was allergic to honey. Here's where I thought I might be the jerk. I tried explaining to her that I simply didn't know of her boyfriend's allergy and that he should have never been touching my food knowing he has an allergy and could potentially put himself in harm's way, which he did in this situation. I also mentioned that I told her to tell him not to touch my food, and she blew up on me, even more, saying that I am dismissing her feelings, and I mentioned she's been dismissing mine ever since he got here. We ended the argument with me yelling at her that I am not responsible for his allergies and she should have have never brought him around the apartment. I told my friend what happened, and she told me that even though he was in the wrong for basically stealing my food, I should have never said that to my roommate because she was in a stressful situation where a loved one could have died. Now I feel bad, and I think I might have been in the wrong. So, am I the jerk? There's a big difference between cooking food for a bunch of people and saying, hey, grab the food, and then not having this whole exchange of what the food allergies were, versus making food for yourself and putting it away in your own Tupperware. How is that even a question as to who's to blame here? This is obviously a terrible situation. Any kind of food allergy this serious is a big deal, but in no way, shape, or form was that food even supposed to be for him. I mean, she probably didn't even tell them that she made it. He was probably just going into the fridge and looking around for stuff. And if it was some sort of money issue or there was hungry or something, maybe if he asked her, she would have shared it with him, but then she would have also said, hey, this has honey in it, if she knew what his allergy was, or just asked him what his allergies were. I don't think there's any way that you can slice this that makes the OP the one at fault here, but from the total other end of the spectrum, I think the OP's friend here really just wanted something to hold on to because she probably was scared about the whole situation. And that's probably what the mutual friends are trying to say to her. But let me know what you would do if you were in this situation, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for eating cake in my car so I didn't have to share it with my wife and kids? I acknowledge, as a father and a husband, that a lot of things were singularly mine before just aren't. My wife steals my clothes, my wife and kids steal my food, my kids steal my phone. I'm fine with it most of the time. But I just need one thing to myself without hurting anyone's feelings or making someone cry, because everyone is sensitive in this house, including me. I bought a single serve piece of cake and ate it in my car without any wife sneaking bits or kids licking the chocolate from the top. Unfortunately, I got caught. My wife is upset with me for going so far as to eat cake while hiding in my car and called me dramatic when I told her my reasoning. So, am I the jerk for eating cake in my car so I don't have to share it with my wife and kids? I mean, the obvious answer here is eat your cake, but get her a slice too. If you eat your cake before you get home, then you could just happily hand over a slice to her and say, hey, I already ate my slice, I got one for you too. And if he wants the kids to have cake, then do the same thing for the kids. Maybe part of this is because if he feels like he's under pressure, she probably feels like she's under a lot of pressure too. And maybe it just seems like a sign of selfishness that he's only thinking about himself when he probably could have got at least one more piece of cake for her. That's not the core of the issue, but it'll probably help a little bit. It is a funny sounding predicament, but let me know what you would do if you're in this situation, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for refusing to eat my mother-in-law's lunch? I became vegetarian a few weeks ago, i.e. I don't eat meat, including beef broth or chicken broth. I was with my boyfriend at my mother-in-law's house. She made some chicken sandwiches for my boyfriend, and she told me,
but don't worry, you and I will be eating vegetarian. I'll make us some chickpeas mixed with X, Y, and Z.
She is absolutely wonderful. I was so happy and grateful that she was willing to accommodate me, especially since I had brought my own vegetarian soup as to not be a burden. She prepared the food. It took about 20 minutes max, and when it was ready, I realized there was broth. I asked if it was beef broth, and she said yes. So I was mortified. I told her I can't eat beef broth as a vegetarian. She apologized, so I told her not to apologize because it's a mistake everyone makes. I told her I was so sorry she spent some time cooking for me. In the end, all was well, and I ate the soup that I brought while she ate the food that she cooked. During the afternoon, I went to the gas station right next to her house and I bought several packs of vegetable broth. I gave them to her, saying I was sorry for the misunderstanding earlier and that this broth she could use if she ever wanted to cook for me, but that I would always bring my own meals because I don't want to be a burden on the family. When we got home tonight, my boyfriend was furious. He told me I was selfish to refuse the food when my mother-in-law had wanted to accommodate me. He told me I was an extremist and that beef broth is nothing. I explained it was a matter of principle, but he is absolutely pissed. I didn't want to ask this question on a vegetarian subreddit because I want objective answers. Do you think I'm the jerk for refusing the broth? It sounds like the only one that had an issue here is the one that wasn't even a part of the situation directly, the boyfriend. The mother seems seemed totally fine. Like, she didn't make a big deal of it or anything. She just said, oh, okay, I'll eat the rest of this food and you can eat that. And the OP didn't say anything bad about when she gave her the vegetarian broth packets or anything. And the OP doesn't seem like it was a big deal either. She didn't get mad because she didn't get to eat the food that the mother-in-law cooked. She just ate her own food. So the only one that really seems to have gotten rubbed the wrong way about this is the boyfriend. I mean, unless there's something that happened behind the scenes, like the mother went to the boyfriend and complained or something, but from the sounds of it, that didn't happen. So let me know what you would do if you were in that situation, and jerk or not a jerk, and why.